I'm Jess.
And I'm Karli. And this is the Only Human podcast. I could just feel that I was so out of alignment with myself and my values. I felt so empty. I started to feel like a shell of myself. That was so debilitating for me, that fear of putting myself out there and just the fear of letting people in. We have our emotional support water bottles. Yeah. Now we got the giggles.
I'm just going to act like a person who loves the way that they look in this hat, and that's just how other people are going to see me.
Well, that's how I see you, so you
Perfect.
should love being in that hat.
Thank you.
It does. I think if you're not used to hats, though, it takes a second to get used to.
No, it does. Very much.
Okay.
We're rolling? Okay.
We're rolling. Let's take a poll. If you think Jess looks so cute in this hat, leave a comment. No. And 5 stars for good measure.
Share this to your story.
No, that's a real thing, though. I feel like a lot of people just are not hat people, but it's getting used to yourself wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Because I've never looked, and maybe someone will disagree, but I've personally never looked at somebody and been that person's not a hat person.
Same.
I think everybody looks adorable in a hat.
Okay.
It's just a comfort thing, within yourself. Step into the hat.
I'm stepping into the hat. I am a hat person now. Thanks. Looks great.
Yeah, our accessories.
It's super cute. I want to like it. It's just yeah.
Well,
it's fine.
It's okay. You wear your hat. I have my necklace on today just to point
on?
out the accessories from Charleston when we did our own little charm bar.
Yeah, we did. We had a lot of fun.
2 out of the 3 people that visited me didn't drink. And you were the first person that visited me, and you were so sure. You were yeah, me and Aunt just aren't drinking right now. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm fine with that because I really have been leaning away from drinking. And you introduced me to your easy mocktail, which I love because it's so easy to make. It's not you're requesting anything that needs to be made by the bartender. Just club soda, splash of cranberry, right?
Yep, with lime.
With the lime.
It's perfect.
And we were drinking them on the rooftops and the restaurants, and it didn't stop us from doing anything, which I love because I feel a lot of times you think about alcohol and everything is centered around alcohol, and when you think that when you take away alcohol, it takes away the vibe or the experience that you can seek out.
Yeah.
But you were so sure that you didn't have to compromise between that. And I don't know, I've always kind of felt myself when I'm not drinking that I don't have a place at a bar or on a rooftop. I thought that the drink was the vibe setter, and you really changed my perspective on that.
Oh, that's very sweet. I mean, I think it does give you more tolerance for things when we went to that outdoor bar and we were drinking. Okay. This is hilarious because we literally went to this bar.
Saltwater Cowboys.
Saltwater Cowboys. And it's jam-packed.
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. on a Saturday. So if you live in Charleston, you're probably
yeah. Yeah. So we go there and we have the nerve. It's 3 rows deep of people to get to the bar. And we have the nerve to ask the bartender for mocktails. She didn't even charge us. I was oh my God. She probably was just get out of my face, please.
Well, she handled it sweet because the next weekend, my friend Emmy and I did the same thing. It was after dinner, and we went to a bar and just sat there because, again, it was the environment. It was a Saturday night. We're both single. We're let's go to the bar. And we didn't really feel like drinking. We had a workout class the next morning, and we were let's just go have a club soda, whatever. And she charged us $10. And I'm okay, that's fair because we are taking up a spot at your bar. We probably stayed for 40 minutes tops, and it was not peak time. It really wasn't. We would have had the awareness to be all right, let's not take a bar stool. But I'm so conflicted with that because I'm why? I will tip you for your service of getting me a club soda, fine, or pay for the club soda, but I don't want to feel I'm a burden just because I want to be out and about without drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have to choose, and I don't like when people make you feel bad. So going back to the Saltwater Cowboys day, I kind of loved that the girl was yeah, club soda, and yes, it was probably annoying that we were asking when she was slammed, but she didn't bat an eye, and she just gave it to me and walked and served the next customer. It was a non-event.
How it should be.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I think that opens up our topic today of sober curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably safe to say that we're both sober curious at the moment.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I know. I was going to say, when somebody asks, or if somebody were to ask, because I think it's very rare, somebody's are you sober curious? I don't even know if I would identify as sober curious. I think because it's become this term, and it essentially is what we are, which we'll talk about in a second. Like, I feel like I would be like, yeah, I guess so. But I feel like we're probably going to have different definitions on it. We probably should have looked up a definition on it before we started this episode. But, like, it's kind of like you are experimenting life without alcohol. And doesn't mean that you, like, have a problem with alcohol. It's just kind of like your life is enhanced without it. And so you kind of, like, just try it out that way. And, yeah, you're curious about what it's like to be sober.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good definition. I was just going to say, like, just toying with the idea of being sober and just, like, kind of trying it out.
Yeah,
and
no
by
rules.
Sober, I mean, like, never drinking alcohol again. Like, and I feel like for me personally, I'm a very all or nothing person. Like, I can't be like, oh, I'm just going to have one drink on the weekends. Like, not that I won't stick to that, but I just, like, that doesn't make me feel good. Like, I want to do one thing or do the other thing and not do both.
That's interesting. I feel like I'm the opposite, and I had to work really hard at balance. But I, like, joke, like, I am kind of like a one-drink wonder when I do drink. Like, I love a good cocktail. I do have it, like, few and far between because the occasion where it's, like, worth it and you're actually going to get a good drink is, like, less and less. And even once you start to eliminate it out of your life completely, even that one drink, you do feel it. So I feel like that's disincentivized me. But I think where I get into trouble is when I have that all or nothing mindset, because then I restrict myself from something. And once I tell myself I can't do something, then it becomes, like, less enjoyable when I decide not to or do. And it's just, like, more of a, like, a mental battle. Yeah. I like to just say I'm intuitive with it because I am. And if there comes a day where I want to drink, I'll have a drink. It's literally, like, a moment by moment decision. Yeah. And, like, 9.9 times out of 10, I'm good not having a drink. But if there is a day and I want one, I'm going to have one.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's made it sustainable for me.
What do you think your early experiences with alcohol were, and has that shaped how you feel about alcohol now? Like, I know it's, like, as we go through life, our relationship with alcohol most likely changes, right?
For
From
sure.
being, like, underage and then being that age where you're 21 and it's, like, so cool that you can get alcohol anywhere now, so I feel like you do it just because you can. But I'm just curious if that has any play into, like, how you feel about now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who choose not to drink in their adult life said, like, oh, I just never really liked drinking alcohol, like, never really sat well with me. Like, I'm actually not one of those people. Like, I used to drink a lot. I started drinking at a pretty young age. It was just normal, the way I grew up. If you're from Northeast Philly, I feel like you kind of understand. And then in college, even though I was a runner and I was in competition mode year round, we definitely still, like, had our nights. So if we competed on a Saturday, we would come home, you know, change out of our uniform and then go back out and, like, meet our teammates. And yeah, I think my position and my stance on alcohol now has come from the evolution of my relationship with it and how I used to kind of, like, drink to the max. And as I started to have more of a focus on wellness, not just for my physical being, but for my mental being, I started to realize that alcohol didn't have a place in it. And it was only when I started abstaining from it or drinking less that I realized my quality of life increased by tenfold. And it truly was a matter of, like, this is what alcohol can do for my life. Like, the improvements that I saw, the way that I woke up in the morning, the way that, you know, I got more restful sleep, I made better decisions, better cognitive function, and it became less about the alcohol itself and more about the way that it allowed me to, like, live my life, and that became addicting. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like I only know, like, the bright side because I've been on, like, the dark side of waking up so violently hungover that, like, I can't even get out of bed because my head is pounding, and looking at my sleep score and seeing a 0 out of 100 of, like, restorative sleep, and just truly, like, sitting with the facts and doing the research of what actually am I putting into my body and, like, what are the effects that it's having, because I think it's easy to stick your head in the sand. So I think knowledge is power, and as I've accumulated more knowledge and, like, again, just taking inventory of my own life, I've just realized I don't really have, like, space for it anymore.
Yeah.
But what about you?
I think it's really cool because there is very rarely a time where we have like the same story or like the same way that we've come to the conclusion. But in a little bit of contrast, I never really had like a lot of drinking in my life. Like even growing up, like when I wasn't of age, like I didn't really seek out times to drink or like have that experience. Definitely when I turned 21, I feel like I went out, you know, a decent amount, maybe like once a weekend. But it was never something that was like very much a part of my life. It was just like a social thing. So I feel like I had a lot of fun drinking when I was around the age of 21. And I have a late August birthday, so like everyone in my circle is very much older than me in that regard. So it was like forever that I was like underage. Me and Ben are like, Ben's in the beginning of the month, so we were both the young ones. But yeah, so I feel like as I got further and further away from 21, I drank less. And just within the last year, like you said about knowledge and just like leaning more into wellness, I've just been trying to be really purposeful about what I put in my body. And I kind of questioned like, why do I do this? And I'm in this point in my life right now where I'm trying to be, it comes from stubbornness, but I'm trying to be very purposeful about things that I do and not do them just because that's what you do. I want to do them because I want to do them, and I'm actively choosing these things. So one of those things for me was alcohol, and I would find myself like, why am I drinking? Why am I getting a glass of wine when I go out? And I didn't really have a good answer. I do, like, Anne thinks it's so funny. Like, I love getting a bottle of wine. Like, I just feel like it's so fun and like spontaneous, but like within the limits of
within your spontaneity
if
balance.
you listen to the last episode, that's within my window of tolerance for spontaneity. But I just feel like, I don't know, so sometimes I do like enjoy a glass of wine or whatever, but yeah, so just within the last like year or so, and then I did 75 hard, so I wasn't drinking for that, and I just like was like, my life is no different. It really isn't. And I think the biggest thing that I've ever leaned on it for is just like that social aspect, which again, going back to the last episode, like that I have difficulty in social situations, especially in like large groups, and that like helps me a lot because I'm a very like, I don't want to use the word stoic, but like I'm a little bit guarded, and that just like helps me bring my wall down like a lot easier, and just like chit chat and small talk and just like feel more comfortable in those situations.
I think a lot of people can identify with that, and I think a lot of people feel like it's kind of like a social rite of passage or like requirement, and it does kind of like alleviate that like voice in the back of your head that's like giving yourself like that internal judgment, and then you're like not worried about how you're being perceived by others, and you can just like speak a little bit more freely and just be a little bit more carefree. And we both run on like the anxious overthinker like persona, so I think alcohol does help us a little bit in that way. And I know that's why I continued to drink, but for me, I feel like going back to what I just said, if I really have like really had to make an effort to learn balance, I used to be an all or nothing. And so when I drank, and I would have these like nights out with my friends and just wake up the next morning and not remember anything. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Like, I am like not even remembering the memories that I'm making with my best friends. And if I do have memories, they're like half there. And when I like reach my tipping point, I go like, you know, just dark. And so like there's lights on but nobody's home, and I'm not like processing anything, and I'm just kind of like quiet, and then I like eventually take myself home. But it's like that is no experience to like seek out. And I felt like I was wasting intentional times, going back to being intentional with like how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. And I think as you get older and you know, are into your years of being an adult, like you realize that time is limited, energy is limited, so you want to make the most of it. And for some people that might be having a good ass time because that's what it means to them, and getting drunk and blowing off steam. For me, I felt like it wasn't restorative, it wasn't fulfilling, and I felt like I was wasting time with those that I loved because I wasn't remembering half of it.
Did you meet any resistance when you decided to start like reeling it back a little bit? Because it sounds like it was a big difference from what you were doing before.
Yes, in the beginning. And I will say it's short-lived. And I think this is where boundaries come into play and just being like so sure of yourself. And I think dabbling in sober curiosity or establishing boundaries that maybe you don't want to drink ever again, maybe you just don't want to drink tonight, but being so sure in your decision. And I think peer pressure is always a thing. I wasn't ever really like one to succumb to peer pressure. I feel like I've always had like a good sense of self, and I'm okay to like, you know, go against the grain. However, it still doesn't like feel great to have to explain yourself. So I feel like there was a period of time where someone would be like, oh, you're not drinking. And of course I still get the questions. And there's a whole, you know, world where like navigating that is just like not fun and it's its own uphill battle. But I feel like just knowing that the decision that I want to make is like way more important than ever like making the decision for somebody else. But yes, to answer your question, finally, after 20 minutes of rambling, there was a little bit of resistance. But I think once I explained where I was coming from, specifically like my friends, my family, like they just know that it's just not something that's really a big part of my life anymore. And they've accepted that. And I hope that they value how I show up in social settings, and like they know that I'm not judging them when they drink. I'm still down to like show up for them and go out. I might not be closing the bars down. I might want to go home at 10 o'clock, but like that's after being out and sober for 4 to 5 hours, you know? So I do think it's a little bit of compromise. Like I think it would be a different story if I just stopped drinking and then also stopped ever going out or making an effort. It's a little bit harder of an effort sometimes when everyone else is blackout and I'm sober, like trying to just make it another hour before it's like acceptable.
I feel like there's a point where like it's fun to be with people that are drinking, but then there's a point where like they get to, then you're like, okay, this is not very much fun for me anymore.
Also just thinking about like the stamina, like what makes you want to stay out, like it's increasing the amount that you're drinking. And so naturally, if you're sober, like you just lose steam more easily.
Yeah.
And I'm already like an early to bed, early to rise kind of person. So like I am rarely out after like 10, 11. And so if I am, like I'm getting tired. Like not only am I getting tired of the drunk people around me, I'm getting tired, like my eyes are wanting to shut. So I've started thinking like, how can I, you know, still be like a fun person who enjoys going out and being in social settings, but like not compromising on, you know, my decision that I don't really want to drink. And it's like, do I have a coffee at 6 or 7 p.m.? Like sometimes, yeah. But then other times I just want to go home at 10 o'clock and my friends know like that's my boundary because I'll probably be up at 7 o'clock, like 6 or 7 in the morning. And that's just the way I operate.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have friends that are like very gracious and supportive of me. And they've like, again, going back to like the communication style that we talked about in the last episode of like surrounding yourself with people that want to understand you and honor what you need and want. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Have you ever been met with resistance?
Not resistance, but I feel like just the question. And I think that our personal feeling about people asking us why we aren't drinking, that response that we feel, it depends on our reason. You know what I mean? Like if we aren't sure, like you said, within ourselves, I feel like that question can be really debilitating. But if you're very sure in yourself and your reason and you're okay with that, then I feel like if your friends are able to just brush it off, then you're able to kind of just like answer the question and move on. But I feel like it's when people then continue and are like, oh, but you know, you could just like do this but then you're not going to be fun and we're just like all having a good time and whatever, and like think less of you. They don't say it outright, but they think less of you, or it makes them feel defensive in their choice to drink. Like that's something that I've found is like I don't want to make people feel like they can't drink because
100%.
I'm not drinking.
Right.
And so that's like, but then again, that's also on that person to not feel that way. And Mel Robbins actually recently said that her husband like stopped drinking for a little bit and she would be like, but it's okay, 1 glass of wine, whatever. And he was like, you would just have to worry about what's in your cup. Like, why are you so concerned about what's in my cup? And that just hit so hard for me because it really is like, if you are sure in your decision to drink, like my decision not to drink should not offend you or affect your life whatsoever, especially if you like are still a fun person when you're not drinking. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be any less of myself not drinking. So like what does it matter if I drink or not?
Yeah.
You know?
I've always really battled with the idea of why people care so much about what other people do or don't do, because I'm like, you do you.
Yeah.
Like, I am not going to tell you how to live your life. I don't care how you live your life. Same way as don't tell me how to live my life. Like, everybody just needs to do what's best for them.
Like, stay in your own lane.
Yes.
I think, like, truthfully, I don't want to say it's okay to ask someone, but, like, out of curiosity, like, I try not to get offended by that question. And I just answer the question. Like, people are just curious.
Sure.
Like, that, you can't fault them for that. But it's when it's, like, continuing the, like, oh, but this, but why this, but, you know, like, that's when it gets to be, like, too much.
It's interesting, though, that you just said, like, I'm not being any more fun or less fun if I drink, because that's something that I have really been worried about, because I feel like I'm kind of a serious person to start. I wish I was
who
like,
you're talking to, right?
Yeah, you did just call yourself stoic like a couple minutes ago. But like, yeah, I feel like I'm naturally just a little bit more of like a chiller. Like, I'm not going to be the one dancing on the bar. I'm not going to be the one like entertaining everybody. I just like laugh at my friends. I'm more of like the bystander.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I was drinking, I found myself being more in on the joke instead of being on the outside. And I think throughout the transition of recognizing I don't love drinking and then drinking less and then being sober when everyone else was like getting more and more intoxicated, I really, really felt like I was on the outs, and like they were experiencing this night and then I was on the outside experiencing it alone.
In a different way.
In a different way. And like, I wasn't part of the inside jokes. I wasn't part of the fun. And that's how to, you know, that was my own hurdle that I've had to kind of overcome, and I still feel that way from time to time. But I almost wish that I could have like a naturally silly, goofy personality that people are like, is she drunk or is she sober? Because I don't fucking know. Like,
so I say that because truthfully, when I'm with people that are drinking and I'm not drinking, even if I'm drinking water, I feel like I'm getting drunk with them. I literally do. I don't know what the science behind it is.
I think it's osmosis.
I feel reverse osmosis is making me drunk when I'm drinking water. But no, I truly do, like, especially at a wedding, just say, if we're on the dance floor and whatever, I feel like I've been drinking. I really do.
Yeah, I could see that. Actually, one time I was wearing these sunglasses and I was like, this is my new thing. I'm sober, but if you put on sunglasses, you just instantly feel drunk and look drunk. And then I was like, no, this is like actually like so pathetic. I'm not doing this. But I feel like there are like little things, like even as simple as just holding a drink, because then people aren't asking you, oh, you're not drinking? And like, add a lime. You need a lime. You need some type of garnish, because that signifies this is an alcoholic drink, even though it's not. But like, nobody knows the difference. And that is the biggest thing, I think, is just like the questioning, and then feeling like other people are feeling a type of way, and you don't want to bring down the vibe. You don't want to make people think like you're judging them, because you're not. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's like a work in progress, because it's summer right now. Like, I feel like everything is surrounded by alcohol, and it's like a party every single night, basically. Like, you could go out and go to a nice dinner and get a drink every single day if you wanted to.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting too, like, if I'm going to show up authentically as who I am without drinking, and like, you don't want to be with me because I'm not drinking, like, that also just, like, I don't want to be in that friendship. You know what I mean? So I feel like when you choose not to drink and you're met with resistance, I feel like that is just an indicator that like you need to like look at your friendships very closely, because you want people that surround you to be able to accept you as who you are, and like want to understand you and like be okay with that. Yeah. You know? And I've been not struggling, but something that I toy with is like, I don't have a really great reason, in my opinion, for not drinking. Like, there are people who have problems with drinking. They wake up with really bad hangovers, or they overdo it every time. Like, they can't just have one drink, they overdo it. And I don't like feel like I have any of those things. And so,
or like kids to wake up to at 6 a.m.
Yeah, like I just sometimes I'm like, I don't even have like a good reason, but like
still valid
reason enough that like I don't want to do it. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just like think about that, and I'm like, I wish I just had like a good reason to like make myself feel better about it.
You know, it's funny. I have recently found my reason, And it's kind of like a fact that I can't argue with because it showed up in my blood results. And who knows, it could have a 0.01% effect on me. It could have a 75% effect on me. But I always compare myself to one of my best friends, Emma, because Emma is the most impressive human I know. Like, she's the most gorgeous. She's the most fun. She can drink like a fish. She can eat whatever she wants. She wakes up the next morning and she's ready to do it all again. And it amazes me, the stamina that she has. And she always looks like a wallflower while doing it. Me, on the contrast, will have 3 drinks, get a terrible night of sleep, wake up with bloodshot eyes, a puffy face, and a pounding headache, and not be able to get out of bed. And I had a really hard time accepting that because I'm like, am I just a little bitch? Like, what is it that makes my experience with alcohol and Emma's experience so drastically different? So this past year, I was on a hormone journey, as I've mentioned many times before, and I got a lot of blood work done. And it came back that I have this gene mutation called the MTHFR gene mutation. It's like joked about to be like the motherfucker gene mutation. And one of the side effects is basically that your body has a really hard time detoxifying. And so it makes sense that my body can't really process and metabolize alcohol and then detox it from my system. So somebody like Emma, who probably has a stellar like metabolism and her body functions extremely well and her hormones are, functioning at 100% capacity, she can wake up after a night of drinking and be like, let's do it again. Whereas me, I'm like, I feel like I just got run over by 100 trains at the same time. And when I had that fact presented to me, I was like, aha, like it made me feel a little bit more validated. Even if I never found that out, like I should have still been like, sure of myself and been like, well, that's my experience. And even if Emma does feel the same way and she just like rallies, like that's not me. But I will say once I got that result, it kind of like made things click. And I was like, so there's a reason why I feel the way I do and why alcohol doesn't have a purpose in my life. Yeah. And that's okay. Because I'm not Emma and I will never be. Yeah. Even though I wish I was.
And just also to speak to the fact that I said in the beginning that I'm a very all or nothing person, like you will be like, I'll have one drink or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in my head, I'm like, if I'm going to have one drink, why am I going to have any? I feel like it's just like calories at that point.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you like the taste of alcohol?
Depends on the day. I feel like not particularly.
When you're out, if you are getting a drink, like what are you getting? I know you said you love a bottle of wine. If you're not, do you ever get like a cocktail or like something like with hard liquor?
Not very often. I feel like I've just been steering towards wine lately.
Okay.
When I have been drinking.
Because I feel like it's easier for people to like abstain and have like that all or nothing mentality when they're either drinking to get drunk, hence the all mentality, or they don't like the taste of alcohol. So they're like, I'm all set.
You're good. Yeah.
But like I think why I'm like a one drink wonder and like have balance in my life is because I love like going to Surfing Pig in North Wildwood and getting a dirty martini or something, or like a French 75, whatever. Not a French 75, a French martini. But yeah, I do feel like I genuinely like the taste. And so therefore I will dabble occasionally. But yeah, I mean, more and more I'm just choosing to abstain altogether again because now I feel that one drink and it's my tolerance is so low.
Yeah. I feel like the cool thing about the sober curiosity wave that's going on right now is that there are more spaces that are coming about that are like introducing non-alcoholic drinks and like they're only having non-alcoholic drinks, alcoholic drinks. And it just is becoming more normal. I want to say it's just like integrating into society, which I think is really cool. And I think if nothing else, like someone else's sober curiosity can hopefully help you evaluate your relationship with alcohol. And if you have a great relationship with alcohol and you want to keep doing what you're doing, like that's perfect too. But I think it's just like we keep saying, being super purposeful and just intuitive about listening to your body and just listening to like what is true to you.
Yeah, the power of choice and feeling like you are living in a day and age where you're accepted either way. And so you look at Carl Radke opening Soft Bar and like, it's a cafe by day and then like a sober bar by night, because like why can't sober people just like go to a bar? And it's just like integrating everybody into society and a social setting, like regardless of their preference of if they're drinking or not. And I just think, like you said, like a lot of people are probably listening to this, like great for you, couldn't be me. And that's totally fine. Yeah. But I do feel like it is having such a movement right now, and it's empowering because I feel like for the first time in a really, really long time, if ever, like people are realizing that they don't just have to fall in line with what other people want. They have, you know, this sense of self, and they can just listen to their own intuition.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you want to wrap up with our mental health segment?
I have to pull
Resource
mine up,
of the
though,
week?
so you can go first.
Okay. So I am reading The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I just started this book. And usually I'm like a junk reader. I'm like, give me the mystery thriller, give me like the romance, but I've just been craving something a little bit like deeper, and I'm very early on in the book, but I feel like people rave about it. And it's basically a story about this young girl from California who enlists into the Vietnam War. And it's just, I feel like one of those books that just changes your perspective. And I think it's a great mental health resource because it kind of is not only educational, but also has the ability to just take me out of my own head sometimes.
Yeah.
And just kind of really just enjoy a story that has nothing to do with like the pressures of real life.
Yeah. There's a space for leisure reading too, like just getting lost in a book and like kind of, like you've said before, transporting out of your reality, but like in a healthy way. Like it's definitely a way to unwind and like just enjoy. It's like a movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I really like that. What's yours this week?
Mine is actually aroma tags that we've made, and they hang in your car, and it's like basically like an air freshener, and it has an affirmation on it, and I seriously read this every time I'm in my car, and it just like helps me slow down a little bit. The affirmation is, life is beautiful and I have time. I'm appreciating every experience it affords me. And it's just it can apply to so many things.
It can.
And however you want to take it that day, it can mean a different thing to you every day. And I love that about it. And it's just a great reminder. I'm probably in my car every single day. And it's just a great, like, it's right in my face.
Yeah, it's so funny because as you read that out loud, like it had its own special meaning to me. And it's like such simple, encouraging words that can resonate so deeply with the person that's reading it. It's like it's the eye of the beholder. But yeah, and they're non-toxic too.
So that's non-toxic.
When you like brought the idea, I was like, yeah, sure, but I hate car fresheners and they give me headaches and they're toxic. And you're like, no, these are non-toxic, and we can have like a eucalyptus or like a lavender scent. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
But I really liked this episode. I feel like it was a little bit lighter, a little bit shorter, but given it's summer, and I feel like it's very like topical, that it's no secret it's drinking season, and drinking culture is a real thing. But there's definitely a space for conversations about sober curiosity, people that are practicing sober curiosity, and just living authentically, because I feel like that's what it really boils down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, that was so beautifully put.
Thank you. All right, we will see you guys in the next one.
See you next time.